Well, if the last thing I recorded was Midnight Musings, this is certainly Midday Musings because it's now 12:28 in the afternoon. So yeah, awesome. Like a sequel that was unplanned until 10 minutes ago, and I decided, hey, you know what? Why don't I just start recording something? Because I'm not gonna. Well, I do have one thing to type up, and that's how to legally do the act of cannibalism. Now, that might be strange because, as some people might know, cannibalism in the United States, with the exception of Idaho, is entirely legal. Like, there's no state or federal prohibitions, with the exception of Idaho, on the practice of cannibalism. However, where it gets to the dubious part and the less legal part is in the procuring of human meat to consume. However, I believe that me and another person have found a succinct loophole for that. So, yeah. I'll write that, and then we'll type it up, and then I gotta send it to the person to add whatever else, and then we'll see where it goes. And so, yeah, with that, I've been watching, I started watching that show Lucifer on Netflix. It's actually pretty good. It's kind of, I was told it's kind of like Supernatural, and I can see what they mean about that. I'm currently on the second season, and, you know, in terms of just the soundtrack used and overall sort of plot structure, it's similar to Supernatural. Like, I'm currently, the season I'm on, they're dealing with their mother, or God's ex-wife. Now, Supernatural doesn't have that per se, however, they do have Eve, the mother of all monsters, in Supernatural, in one of the seasons as the antagonistic force, so there's that. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I've been watching Lucifer and I quite enjoy it. But, you know, I was watching it, and I sort of got this sense of an interesting trope that occurs both in movies and real life. It's sort of this, you know, when someone's dead or dying, they sort of get painted over with this glossy gleam. I think I've talked about this, especially in regards to someone like Kurt Cobain, who gets almost deified because just because of the music he made. And sure, he made beloved rock songs, but, you know, as said in Danny Goldberg's Serving the Servant, you know, he was just as fucked up and pissy as the rest of us. He was a heroin addict who ate a shotgun with his mouth. However, what I find interesting about it is it's sort of there's another movie. It's called Vengeance. It's from 2022. It stars BJ Novak, who plays Ryan in The Office. He plays this trying journalist who so BJ Novak plays a trying journalist who goes out to make a podcast trying to capture the American experience. Now, needless to say, that has been done already with the suffering and celebration of life in America, but that's neither here nor there. But that's a good book, so check it out on Internet Archive. But he goes to Texas because he gets invited to a funeral by the family of this girl that he hooked up with. Now, the girl had led her family on to believe that they had some sort of intense relationship, and so he kind of sort of plays into it just so that they don't feel just sort of for their own sake. But he gets caught up in investigating her death because they don't believe that it was a suicide or an overdose, which would just be an accidental suicide. And however, what's interesting is they all would repeat the same phrase whenever it came to the topic of drugs. They would say that she never touched so much as an Advil. Now, come to find out, towards the end of the movie, the grandmother character sort of let it slip that she was a perpetual pill popper, and she died whenever she began to OD in front of her dealer / music producer, and when she was ODing, she got dragged out to this area that's sort of a legal gray zone. So basically there were 4 jurisdictions surrounding it, but there was this stretch where basically it was kind of questioned as to who had the authority there. So it wasn't exactly investigated at all, and yeah. It's a good movie, but it sort of also similarly reminds me of the case of Rachel Scott, who was one of the 13 others who got shot at Columbine. Now, there is this sort of perpetuated tale of Rachel Scott being killed because I believe it was Dylan, because I remember the name Klebold coming up, asking if she believed in God and then blowing her face off. Now, the account of this supposedly comes from another student, what's his name? Richard Castaldo, who was shot next to her and survived. However, the thing is, Richard Castaldo was comatose very soon after and doesn't recall ever saying anything of the sorts or anything of the sorts ever happening. And nor was it actually mentioned in any sort of police reports. However, it was taken and touted by her family as well as evangelical groups as sort of a point of pride, I guess, because, you know, she died professing her faith, you know, as if that's the real issue, not getting shot in the fucking face, you know. Abrahamics love their persecution complex, don't they? But that's neither here. That is here and there. And that's sort of like something. I guess I sort of iterated it at the beginning here, but in the Saw movies, John Kramer enunciates that, you know, isn't it strange how we seem to forgive and forget everything right when someone's on the verge of death? And it's like, I know an instance where that happened recently too, with the person that died, and that's very interesting, but I'm not going to bring that up because my beefs are not my own to interject myself into at this point. I don't care. But yeah, it's just a very interesting sort of thing that people seem to overlook everything, or on the flip side, they look at everything and scrutinize it depending on the person it is after their death. Sort of like tearing down a monument. Like, you know, it's like there's that Robert E. Lee monument, and it's like, you don't have to agree with Robert E. Lee's position in fighting for the Confederacy. However, Robert E. Lee was a great general, and I think he had a very succinct point in stating that I'm a Virginian first. You know, that's a very, very, in my mind, powerful phrase, because, you know, if he had not been a Virginian, it is highly likely that he would have fought on the side of the Union, which is what the whole Civil War was actually about, was the Union. And I know people are like, well, states' rights to what? To have slaves? No, states' rights to secede the Union. That's all it was about. You can read the Lincoln-Douglas debates. Abraham Lincoln never actually wanted to exactly free the slaves. The Emancipation Proclamation was a military tactic, nothing more. It wasn't this thing of goodwill. It just became part of the idea as time went on, and so he kind of went along with it. But you can read the Lincoln-Douglas debates. He was never totally anti-slavery. In fact, he had this idea of sending Africans back to Africa to live there, but yeah, his point was never anything other than holding the Union together. That was the point, not freeing slaves. That was a military tactic. And that's not to say what he did was terrible, but the fact of the matter is that's what it was, a military tactic and little more. It's whatever. It's just an interesting point of history. Then I've been listening to a lot of this song called Drugstore Perfume, and so I sort of just started writing and I guess cohesion with it. Just these sort of bits of poetry, because I do that often. So this is some of it. This was the sort of first one that I did because it directly quotes it. So these don't have any names, by the way. So, dead dreams, desperate summers, delayed and frayed rechargers, old edges, shredded hearts, along sing out of tomb harps, harrowing hollowed heat, inflated aloud, mountainous hills making inside mundane steep me in, down and out, determined collage, drought-ridden diorama, endless multimedia. And then another one is collegiate thinking about free, nothing without a nicely sent satisfaction guarantee. All places faded, waiting, waning. Static memory, strategy is factory settings, fleeting greenery and noisy allegory, gray electric wall steam, clear entity and cabin fever, scream, dream even for a little while, always turnstile written in the files, icy eyes and caretaking cinephile, complacent stars with broken car parts, out of style complimentary. And then that was a second one. And then the last one that I wrote last night was this. So, displeased, disparaging covers, cohesive struggles ungluing truthful discoveries, and lifted metaphors for every chapter of lived suffering and satisfactory destitution. To live abound, down and out and around out of town, rainy covered, dancing under clouds before dawn, far beyond evening, annoyances away with the day gone. So yeah, there we go. And so, yeah. I finished reading the 6th chapter of Chaos to move on from that, which is Tom O'Neill's book on Charles Manson, the CIA, and the secret history of the 60s, as it proclaims. And so, again, I'm not going to type this stuff up, especially this one. Well, I might type it up, I'm just not going to post it on the blogs or anything, because it's just like, I spend so much fucking time doing that. And frankly, while I like to do it, I just need to sort of just write stuff for a while and not post it anywhere. I can read it here, but I'm not going to put it anywhere, except for the cannibalism bit. So, but yeah, I'm gonna, so the 6th chapter of Chaos is definitely an interesting one. However, it will take a good bit to get my whole thing on that down, because I realized while I was reading it, oh shit, my interests are converging, so I need to contact John Kiriakou, and for that I need a bit of money, which I don't have, in order to get a bit of an interview with them, because where it intersects is a possible CIA person and certain enhanced interrogation techniques or torture. So yeah, very, very, very interesting, and I hope I can get that, because I do like John Kiriakou. I find him an interesting individual, to say the least. Globally ranked Angry Birds player, by the way. Yeah, what's this? Cool. Anyway, I guess I'll show it right here. Ely Soda, raspberry flavor. Ely Soda was a soda company started by Shane Bugbee in Ely, Minnesota. Yeah. But yeah, I really like this album, Hesitant Alien, from Gerard Way. It's the only solo album he did, after, My Chemical Romance split back in 2013. You know, he did other solo music and was a guest on multiple different, songs, but, you know, it's just sort of so succinct, so all-encompassing. I really like the album. It's a very good album in my opinion. I quite like it. You know, it's just very solid, to say the least. And so, I don't feel like talking for 40 minutes today. I think I've gotten the point out. Well, actually, I talked for almost 50 minutes last time. It was like 49 minutes and something seconds, which is kind of crazy because I don't tend to talk that much. And I really don't feel like talking that much, but, you know, I have coffee, French press, it's very good, and yeah. What else can I say, though? I remember, oh yeah, because this is at 17 minutes now. I remember there was this thing where it's like people on YouTube used to go to the 20-minute mark to get ad revenue and stuff. God, that was such an interesting time. I remember that with like older channels. I don't care about that, but you know, it's just an interesting thing to reminisce on what the whole landscape of a platform like YouTube used to be. Because I've been watching stuff on it since I was 2nd, 3rd grade, you know. You know, back when stuff like Watch Mojo reigned supreme until their recent falling out of favor, as well as oh god, I remember what's his fucking name? Popular MMOs. That was such a good channel. You know, I really enjoyed that channel. Way back when. Who else? I don't know, I didn't really watch terribly much. Oh, I would watch a bunch of like the sort of like oh, the King of Random. That was when Grant was still alive. Holy shit, he died during as a result of like a hang gliding accident. That was kind of fucking crazy. To open my phone and see, oh shit, he just died of something. But yeah, you know, very, very interesting. And now the King of Random's just gone to shit, to be entirely honest. Like, it's not the greatest. You know, after the 2 people that were there after Grant sort of bequeathed the channel to them and would make the occasional appearance, then he died, then those 2 left, and it just sort of went to shit. You know, it wasn't interesting anymore. It wasn't, you know, like this crazy shit that Grant and all of them were doing. But, you know, this is good to go back sometimes and watch these old King of Random videos. You know, like when he was making the peanut butter looking explosives. That was fucking great. What else? A lot of creepypasta shit, you know. I liked the whole. I really liked the Russian sleep experiment, and then that one Japanese one where it was like the slit-mouthed woman, I think it's called, where like the mouth is like this. And that one just fascinated me because of the images that people had produced. Like, some of them were really good, of like the mouth slit open, and I was just enamored with that image. It was like, it was just fascinating. I don't know. I find body modification interesting, even especially in like the more extreme cases. Like, I was reading this book of body modification, which is like a collection of. It was a collection that detailed some people who did some very interesting, extreme body mods, and there was a person who had modified his urethra to act as a flamethrower, which is insane, to say the least. I wonder how that guy's doing now. But yeah, kind of reminds me of another book that I have, called Modern Primitives from Research Publications, which is one of Vale's projects, though Vale, from what I understand, is sort of an all-around agreed-upon cunt. Okay, I get it, phone, you're at 20%, I don't care. But yeah, Vale is sort of an all-around cunt from what I understand, people viewing him as. Though he definitely has quite a bit of archive of creations or literature that I think is quite interesting and useful to use as reference. Like, that's where I found out about this character called Man Woman, who has or had a bunch of tattoos with the swastika on them, and used it in its actual meaning, because technically, the Nazis don't own the swastika. This is something that doesn't make sense to me. It's sort of, it's like, why let the Nazis ruin a good symbol if they were so evil? Why? Like, the swastika is a pretty cool symbol. Why should only one group get to define it for the rest of history when said group wasn't even around for more than, like, the group collapsed under its own weight. Why do we, like, oh no, they killed 6 million people or whatever. Get the fuck over it. That was 80 years ago. The swastika has thousands of years of history and is just frankly a cool fucking symbol. Whether you're using it in a fascist sense or not, like, who gives a fuck? It's a symbol. Symbols can be repurposed and redefined, it's like symbols have as much power as you give them. If you give it the power to be this destructive and evil thing, that's exactly what it'll be. But if you just see it as a symbol and take it in the broader context of what it might mean and does mean, then you get a more beautiful picture, even with the things that you might disagree with. And now, it's like, you just have to be more, you can't think so black and white so as to make a symbol that's been around for thousands of years, it just, after a 30 year stint in Germany, ruin it all, like, oh no, Nazis. A group that that basically lost all its power in 1945. Oh no. It's like, it's just pathetic. But I get people want to feel like they're fighting against or for something, but it's like, if they were defeated that long ago, what's the point? What's the point? Like, we still see the hammer and sickle in spite of the Holodomor and stuff. But it's subjective and more politically inclined of an issue than often made out to be, because a certain country in the Middle East has way too much control. I won't say what it is, but they wear stupid fucking frisbees on their head and walk around and think they're God's chosen people. Such a moderate take if I look back on it, because I'm quoting someone there. Because it's just so fucking funny. But, you know, it's like such a moderate take, actually. I don't understand why people would throw a fit about it. It's like, oh no, you know, he said, you know, he said that. And it's like, you know, as opposed to what he does now, I preferred that person on, I prefer that person on that podcast from 22 years ago. But yeah,